Hi guys, my name is Sean. I'm a houseplant enthusiast from Jakarta, Indonesia. In today's video, I'm going to be tackling my Philodendron billietiae variegata. This is going to be a very stressful video for me. I bought this as a tiny little plant about the size of a pinky finger. If I have pictures of that, I'll include that on the screen. It was very expensive, but I believe the prices must have peaked at this time because I see a lot of people have them now in cultivation. So this is actually a really beautiful philodendron. I believe it's from the Brazil or French Guyana. Gaia is how you say it. From that region, and it was discovered by someone with the last name Billiet, if I'm not wrong. That's why it's called the billietiae. It's got really beautiful long leaves with this orange petiole, but the variegated version here has this beautiful cream yellow variegation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, and I might have heard wrong, that these guys were actually discovered in tissue culture, and it wasn't so long ago. This is why they're relatively, I would say, new-ish to the plant market. Yeah, that's my little bit of trivia, which may or may not be true. Feel free to comment down below. And the care for this is not as easy as your other philodendrons. I actually have the regular green form. They really hate to be overwatered. They're hemiepiphytic, which means that they actually live most of their lives on trees, and then their bodies, like the lower half of the bodies, will get cut off, and then the top will just survive on its own. The top will actually put out these, if you can see these, naughty runners. It will send them down to the canopy below. This will suggest that they really don't like to be wet. They don't like to be sitting in water. And in terms of potting mix, I give them an aerite potting mix and terracotta pot because I'm really afraid of overwatering it. I'm not sure what the roots look like. I repotted this in here about 3 months ago, and we're gonna find out. Today we're definitely going to repot this. This is a little bit pot bound, I think, but I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be propagating it today or not, but let's see as we go along. No pest pressures at all. These guys are pretty easy going with the pests, and again, do not overwater it. They're actually very slow growing in my experience, but correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I've seen them in like nurseries and they grow like crazy, but not here, not where I am. I have one leaf every 3 months, I would say. So they're relatively slow growers. Comment down below if you think that yours is growing faster, or if you think that I was right about it being a slow grower. And yeah, and they do grow like in a rosette pattern. Unless you give them a tree or something or a wall to climb on, then they would just have all the leaves facing forward. But other than that, they would face, whichever way they can. And I've seen some massive specimens of these. So jealous. And again, yeah, maybe I'm just not caring for it correctly. Maybe I'm not fertilizing enough, but it is a pretty slow grower, or maybe the pot is too tight, but we'll find out in a minute. So let me just get started with unpotting this. All right, moment of truth. I actually wet this pot about twice today just to get the roots to be a bit loosened up, because they can really adhere to the terracotta pot, making it very difficult to unpot. And I want to, of course, keep as much roots intact as possible without hurting it. In hindsight, I would have probably just given it a plastic pot. Oh my gosh, this is a expensive plant. I have to be very careful. And you know me, I'm very impatient when I'm filming. Another solution would be to dunk this in water or break the terracotta pot to free it. Okay, all right. Beautiful. Now I don't see any signs of pests, and I don't see any signs of root rot, not yet at least, which is great actually. It's got such a robust amount of roots, and I don't know if I'm going to be propagating it today. I may. Let me see. Let me dig in a bit. There's actually a lot of stem in here, by the way, a lot of stem, because again, I got it as a tiny little plant, so there's a lot to work with. But the sky is getting late, it's getting dark, and what I may do, because, okay, I forgot to mention, this actually put out a lot of green leaves. Sorry, that's the important part of this video. I should have mentioned it, but I forgot. So one of the reasons why I want to propagate it is because it's lost a lot of the variegation. And if you look at this main central stem here, like a cross section, with billietiae, they sprout leaves at random parts of the node, unlike a Monstera where it's more predictable, like a left right situation. So this needs to come out from an area of the main stem that is variegated for it to produce a variegated leaf. So I cannot actually find, let me see, this one leaf is actually variegated. So I'm trying to see if I can find, some of them you can find the variegation on the stem and sometimes you can't, but you can see the growing eye here. So yeah, it's impossible to tell, I think, unless I chop it up. But I don't know, should I? You know what, I may do that. I may chop it up. You know what I'm gonna do? It's actually sundown now. So I don't want to rush into this. I want to take my time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a temporary pot, and then I'm gonna propagate it. Let me find my pot. So I'm gonna just put this temporarily in this massive pot with all these roots, like that. Dress it back up. Sorry, that guy was in pain the whole time. But I'm glad we managed to check out the roots, because what I'm gonna do is tomorrow, in the morning, I'm going to wash all the potting media off the next day, and you know what? I'm just going to fill this up with potting mix, and then I'm going to propagate when I come back from Thailand, because I realize it's going to be a 3-week process and a lot can go wrong with the cuttings. I cannot risk that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up, and then I'm also going to fertilize it pretty generously, because when you fertilize the plant a few weeks before you propagate it, the plant can uptake that nutrient up onto the nodes and onto the leaves. This will increase the success rate of the propagation as well. As you can see before, I may have actually under fertilized it. I don't see any of my slow release pellets anymore. See you guys in a few months. I guess I'll update you again. It is actually 2 months since the last video, and I was actually waiting for this one leaf to unfurl. It took like a month to completely unfurl and harden, but it's put out a new sheath here. So I was gone for about 20 days to Thailand, and then remember we repotted into this plot, and actually it's been raining every single day, like torrentially raining. I was not expecting that, so I'm a little bit worried if it's gonna rot in there, because it did not live in this plastic pot before. It was in a tighter pot with terracotta, and I'm also losing a lot of variegation. As you can see, this is the main stem, and let me see, this last leaf is obviously all green, and the one before that is all green as well. And yeah, I'm losing a lot of the so let's just cut it up and hope for some variegation in the lower node below. I'm going to unpot this as a moment of truth. I really hope that I did not rot this plant. I really hope not. So far so good. Very good. Huh, look at that. So this is my aeroid potting mix, just so you know. It's very chunky in there, as you can see. But yeah, it should not be watered every day. If it's up to me, if it's not up to the rain, I would maybe water this every 2 to 3 days. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to slowly get this root untangled, because I really want to look in the main stem. As I mentioned before, the plant was started with these tiny leaves. They were this size of my pinky, and now it's grown this big. So there's a long main stem here that we can actually work with. All right, so I actually accidentally broke off this leaf. It was such a shame. It's a really big leaf, but I was shaking it vigorously. But I guess what I'm gonna do is I should take the leaves off before I unpot this any further, because I don't want to lose any more leaves. So I'm gonna cut somewhere. Let me see. Oh my gosh, this is actually very nerve-wracking. Huh, none of these top growth here have any aerial roots. This is scary, you guys. I don't know if you see this. All of these nodes here, these guys don't have aerial roots. If they don't have any aerial roots, that's not a good cutting. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to keep a lot of this top growth, and I do see one over here. So I'm gonna cut it so they've still got some roots to support its life. And that's the growing eye below that, so I'm gonna cut it right. Oh my god, this is scary. This is scary. This is actually a little bit harder than I thought. Could I use the shears instead? Hang on, this is wrong. Sorry, that cut here does not come with the roots, does it? Hang on, let me study this. Yeah, I made a little bit of a cut, but I don't think the root belonged to that node. Shoot, okay. Let me cut one below that then. Make sure that this node is still intact. Oh my god, this is turning into a disaster. Turning into a disaster. Let me cut this clean first. This is where the leaf broke off. I want to cut it clean and sterilize before I forget. And then we can separate it and then study it later. Cut first, ask questions later in this case. Okay, because this one I managed to get a few roots. This is going to be our top cutting for sure, without a doubt. Let me show you what the top looks like. This is bacterial growth here. But I think it's done, it's dried out. So yeah, as you can see, this is the top cutting. I'm gonna take this off. Top cutting here, the roots, and it's got 3 leaves, one on the way. So here's the node trying to put out an aerial root, and this is their apical bud here. I don't know yet how to find variegation, if there's such a thing as variegation on the stem, because the older stem here is very woody. So we may not be able to find variegation on these. This looks like this could be all green. This one node here doesn't look like it's got any stripes running through it. But I guess let's find out. I'm gonna pot this up in moss, I guess. Actually, I lied. I decided to use the aeroid potting mix instead because you could actually see the roots. And moss would just be a little bit too flimsy, but I also trust my aeroid potting mix. I've been very comfortable with using it to propagate. So let's see about that. I'm not going to water this today. I'm gonna let it dry out for a day and then water it lightly tomorrow. Now I still haven't managed to set this free. I'm gonna continue to untangle this to wash it free. Okay, so it's about 20 minutes later. It's really impossible to get everything out, and I think the more I get it out, the more I'm gonna damage the root. But here's a little window. As you can see here, the main node is going down here, and I can see it's shrinking to a very small size. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna cut it. I'm just gonna cut it right here. Because I know there's gonna be many nodes down below. I don't know how many. Okay. Moment of truth. See where I made the cut here? The bottom part here will have many small nodes, but I'm not going to cut further than that. I think I will just let it be. It should branch out if I don't kill it. It should. And I managed to accidentally cut an aerial root out, which is not good. See, I'm gonna untangle this. Let me separate these two plants. Okay, so here's the top cutting. It's got many leaves, many nodes, but look at how close the internodes are. This is crazy. For this number of leaves, it's got very close internodes. But the roots, look at the roots. It's got so much. It's too much roots actually. Sometimes when you have long roots like this, you may actually rot the plant. So I'm gonna start. Let me sterilize my knife once again. I'm just gonna, because it's not visible to see where each node ends and where the growing eye is, I'm gonna cut around 2 nodes per cutting, making sure I get the aerial roots. This is a particularly challenging, a very challenging philodendron to cut up. First cut, no looking back. I don't know how many nodes this is. I guess we'll find out soon. I see 3 leaves, but we lost one. We lost the 1 leaf here. Let me cut it clean actually. Cleaner wound. And then we lost a root down below. So let me sterilize everything. And look at all these long roots that we have. Actually, long roots like this is not always good, just so you know. It can be beneficial, but they can also rot. It's more avenues for it to rot. So I'm thinking if I should just cut it. I think I'm going to. I'm gonna cut it right here. I'm throwing away all these roots. It's just too many. Look at all these. This is what we have now. And this is enough. This is enough for a node this size. I don't want to risk it. So I do want to cut on the cut end of the root that we just did. And I'm going to pot this up in, for this one, because we did aeroid potting mix before, I'm going to do moss for this one. We're going to interchange. We're going to do both, just so we get a variety, so we can see the differences. Careful not to break any roots, because if you break it, you may cause infection in the broken ends. That's not what you want. Don't compact it. Do not compact your moss. It needs to just be humid in there. In fact, if you have pockets of air like this, I find it's good for it. So it's gonna have these water vapor on it at some point later when I water it. I'm not gonna water this today, but I'm just gonna water it like by spraying it very lightly almost every day, but very, very lightly, just to make sure that it's maintaining enough humidity in there. It just needs to be comfortable, not overwatered. Again, if you overwater this can rot very easily. This is a plant that really hates water. How cute. I hope I get some variegation out of this. I don't know which node is going to sprout leaves. And moving on down. So I'm checking to make sure that each of these cuttings have at least one root system that came with it, which is not a lot actually. This one belongs to that. Yeah. See, a few nodes could only have one root here. This is 3 leaves actually. I don't think this is going to give me variegation, and this one actually cut across the growing eye. This is not what you should do. This is across, so it's gonna sprout a growth from a lower node. So if it's the same as other philodendrons, they actually have some variegated stripes down the stem, and if this growing eye coincides with that stripe, it will produce variegated leaf. But again, this is too woody. I can't even tell right now if it's variegated or not. But we're gonna cross our fingers. If not, there's nothing wrong with a green billietiae. Absolutely nothing wrong. They are still gorgeous. I'm actually counting on the lower, the parent plant, for variegation. This one actually does have a little bit of variegation on the leaf. For this one, I'm actually giving it the aroid potting mix. I think the last few will do moss. I don't know if I should even cut this. Hang on, let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I should. Because look at that, this is 3 leaves. It's got aerial roots here and aerial roots here. Look at how close the internodes are. I don't even know where I would cut it. Yeah, it's too close. I think look at how close the internodes are. I think I'm gonna leave this one as it is, and it's going into moss. Things go. And you know what? Because the roots are so crazy, I'm just going to give this my aroid potting mix. Alright, so I'm left with this parent plant here. Quickly sterilize the wound a bit. Take off the dead root here. And I'm going to take a fresh new pot. For this one, I'm not even, because it's still clinging onto some media before. And I do want this to dry out. I do not, because it's lost so much of its foliage. In fact, it's lost all its foliage. I'm not going to be watering this for the next few days at all. This is very easy to rot at this point. So you really do want to keep it very, very, very dry, but not for long. You want to keep it slightly humid until it pushes out its new growth. I hope it does. I don't know. This is a little bit of a greedy cut, I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it like that. That's the parent plant, basically. That is the main plant. This is looking ridiculous now. Okay, that's all set. And yeah, well, there's a bit of roots reaching out, but that's fine. I know there's a lot in there. This is just gonna dry out on its own if it's not in the soil. I guess I will, let me quickly show you a family portrait before I let you guys go for the update. So I've got the parent plant in here. I've got the top cutting in here. I've got one in moss, and I've got two straight into potting medium. This is actually less than I thought. I know that people cut them out a lot more, but actually if I let this grow out a bit more, you know, the nodes actually get a little bit longer and they become kind of an epiphyte. They can climb upwards because after the original rosette pattern, they tend to do that. That would be easier to propagate. But I guess because I waited 2 years to propagate this plant, and it's such a slow grower, and I have to move soon, so I better propagate now. And I guess I'll give you guys an update. I hope I don't kill these. Oh, and really quickly, I'm gonna care for these all indoors in my little indoor area so it doesn't get rained on, because a lot of my plants have died that way. And I'll be able to keep my eye out on these closer. See you in a few months. I have a feeling this is gonna be a long update. A 1 week update. This is, I believe, the top cutting. And let's check out the roots. The roots seem fine. I actually water this very lightly every day. It's got a little bit of humidity in there, as you can see, but it's not sopping wet. But I'm a little bit worried about this one here, the next one. So the leaves turned. Come on, let's try to struggle with this. I need more space. I need more space to handle my plants. So I actually underwatered this, I think, and the leaves are curling and drying out really fast. And this one here is turning out. There's a little bit of variegation here, but let me check out the roots. The roots look fine. And again, I'm very careful. I just watered this, by the way. This is as wet as it can get, but then it will dry out by the end of the day because it is the morning now. And this one we can't see exactly what's happening, but I'm cautious about watering it as well. Down below, I water it so lightly every day, and that is the parent plant. And of course, nothing has sprung out yet in 1 week. Here is a 1 month update. I guess this one is doing pretty okay. I believe this is the top cutting. The roots have even peeked out of its pot. I should actually repot this where I can tuck this back inside so it can turn into real roots, but look at how healthy everything is inside. So I'm not really worried for this, except that this might turn into a regular green billietiae, which is not the worst thing in the world. And this over here has actually put out a new leaf. The leaf is so short and stubby, it's not long, but it's cute. But yeah, again, this is going to give me a green billietiae. I don't think this is going to give me any variegation, unfortunately. And this one here, I have not unearthed to see if it's put out any new vine, but it should. Yeah, it did, sorry, and it hit, you see that? It put out something, but it hit the side of the pot. So it's bent downwards, going downwards. So I'm filming with an old phone because my new phone is in repair, so it's a bit shakier with this one, but I may have to remedy this. Yeah, I'm gonna try to redo this after I film it. Try to pot it nicer. But it's only put out one vine. Hang on, I'm gonna take this whole thing out. Yeah, it's only put out one sad little vine, but I don't know if this is variegated or not. It's hard to tell. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna fix you later. So this is around 3 weeks later, and this is the parent plant. And as I suspected, I guess I might have kept this a little bit too moist, but also when it has no leaves and it has a lot of roots, it's rotting a little bit. So I'm gonna have to chop off some of these rotten roots, especially this one here. This is an example of a rotting root. I'm gonna cut it off, and then I'm probably just going to put it in moss and put it in a prop box and not water it at all. I'm gonna let the ambient humidity just bring it back to let it root, let it sprout, and I may actually wash this off a bit. So I'm going to show you what it looks like inside. I'm going to clean this up. Good news, so this is what we have left, and there were a few growth points here. I think this one came off, but I sprayed water on it really hard. I think these are growth points. Look at that, the sheath here, it came off. These are all these growth points, and I think I damaged this. I sprayed water really hard on it to try to get as much dirt as possible, but I did not know that they were so fragile. But there are multiple growth points happening here, and I knocked a few off, but there are some happening here. So I'm gonna try to keep this in moss and keep it on the dry side, but maybe in a humidity tent so that it can be it can rehab really well. But I've cut off literally all the dead roots in there. So yeah, wish me luck on that one. And here's one. I actually grew this way in the pot, but I noticed that the growth points were coming in the opposite direction. So I think it wants to be this way. A few of the roots did rot off, the secondary branches of this. I don't know if I removed it, I can't remember. I was tending to plants all morning. Oh yeah, this is rotten. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off most of the roots, and then I'm gonna put it in less moss than this, and I think I will just put this in a prop box. But as you can see, it wants to grow upwards like that. I see 2 growth points. This is one, and this is another one. And I don't know if it's a bit variegated or not, it's too early to tell. Sorry about the mess here, but this is the top cutting, and it actually put out 1 leaf. There you go, and it's a beautiful healthy leaf. Let me check out the roots here. The roots look beautiful. It looks like it's developing well, but I fear that this is turning into an all-green billietiae, which is a welcome addition to my collection since I killed my baby green billietiae. This is a meat cutting with a little bit of variegation. I am counting on a few growth points to come out from here, I hope. And this is a bit worrisome because I don't see any new growth points yet, although I do see a growing eye somewhere. There should be more than one there. That's the growing eye right in the middle of the screen. Let me feel the stem here. It's solid, but if you come down from the roots, you feel your way down and down. Yeah, this is already soft, so I'm gonna feel it all the way up. Yeah, I see this white bit of roots. This is new root, so this is healthy. So I'm gonna cut it to this point where this new white root has appeared, because below that, any point below that, it's rot. So I'm filming now this one here. This is a mid-section cutting. I lost 2 of the leaves, and this one leaf doesn't look so hot. So I'm actually going to open this up and check out what the inside looks like. Whoa! So I took this out, and it put out a new vine. It put out 2 new vines. Oh, I'm excited for this. But okay, I need to be careful because I was washing the parent plant and I knocked off a few of these. Can you imagine that? That is my most expensive mistake ever. So let me see if there are any mushy roots. This one is mush. This one is mush as well. It started mushing from here. You can see the point where the healthy roots turn into mush, so I'm gonna have to cut that off. Let me feel the moisture of the soil. I do water this very lightly on the top every day. It's actually fine, it's just slightly damp. But this is what happens when you propagate with too much roots. Sometimes they do rot off. So I'm gonna clean this off real quick. So I chopped off most of the roots. These are all the healthy ones left. So you just kind of feel them around. If you feel like the outer casing of the roots feel mushy, it's probably rot. So I cut it off right here. As you can see, fresh roots are growing. So usually you can tell where the rot is, because right before the rot you will see fresh roots like this, but after the rot a lot of the roots would turn black and mushy. These guys are also healthy. They're hanging on to the secondary branches of roots. They're healthy. Again, a lot of them, if you feel like it's mushy or it's not like solid like this, it's mush. So we don't have a lot of roots left, but that's okay because there's only 1 more leaf left. I remember there was 3 left leaves here, and the 2 naturally fell off, so that's a good sign. So hopefully this will come out soon. This 1 leaf is providing food for the whole cutting at this point. And I'm gonna really back off with watering. I'm gonna keep it in this wide pot here because it's less likely to overwater in a wider pot. So wish me luck on this one. Here we are 1 month after the last update. And finally, this is the top cutting, has put out a new leaf, but as I predicted, the new leaf will not be variegated because all the other leaves before that is completely green. But again, I don't mind an all green billietiae. They're beautiful. That is a Dieffenbachia, Tiki something. It's not a billietiae, but that is actually beautiful Dieffenbachia. Look at that. Sorry, I digress. But yeah, this is huge leaf, and it's continuously going to grow up. The first leaf is always going to be small, and then it'll catch up to this after 2 more leaves or so. They're very slow growing actually, and very slow to propagate. This is another one. This is a midsection cutting, and a small leaf has sprouted from this. And there's another midsection down here, and that is the new leaf. Actually, sorry, these 3 are new leaves. This is the first one. The second one, I actually really like that little bit of pink around the rim. It's a very subtle detail. And the third one is coming. So this is actually the faster growing one. This is the leaf that we propagated with. I have a feeling we actually did lost a few of the leaves. They came with it, but this is doing really well already. Look at all these roots. And of course, I saved the best for last. And by the way, if I didn't show any more cutting because some of them did not survive, so this, the 3 green billietiae is all that we have left. And this little guy here, look at that. This is the one from the bottom cutting, it sprouted 2 plantlets here. Yeah, maybe 3. Sorry, there's 3. There's 3 in there. So focus. Yeah, that's total 3, and the variegation looks insanely beautiful. This is so precious, and I'm really hoping that you will live. So the way that I've been caring for it is I've been putting it in this prop box, and I've closed it for a while, and I open it every few days to just let some air in. And then because I'm moving soon, I'm starting to acclimatize all these plants to natural air. So I've been letting it open for like just like a jar for like 3-4 hours at a time, and then I just kept opening it a bit more. But sometimes I would close it for a few hours, so it's kind of like a game. You just kind of use your feeling. There's no actual schedule. And the lid is right here. And for the last 2 days or so, I've just been keeping it out in the open. I was actually really worried at first because when you open the lid, these guys will be sweating like crazy. I have a feeling that's because they're not used to the sudden drop in humidity. So is it transpiring or guttation? I don't know which, but they are sweating a bit more. And there is actually a time when they could actually rot. When you have water sitting on the leaves for too long, when it's stressed out trying to expel water, or maybe it's trying to moisturize itself, I have no idea. But you do have to acclimatize them slowly when you open the prop box. And I'm very happy with this. Yeah, I have to keep counting to make sure that I have 3. There might be more down below, maybe buried down below, but I don't know. But I'm really happy with this result so far. So I guess if you have a variegated billietiae or any philodendron that is reverted, do cut them back. And you might have some chances, especially in the lower note when their variegation was actually more prominent. And then of course we have these green ones that I can enjoy for a very long time. I have 3 of them. I might actually let some go in my final clearance sale soon. So yeah, I'm going to have to say goodbye to some of these billietiae. Welcome to a 3 months update and a final one. So this has put out a new leaf. This is the top cutting. This is the last leaf before that. So this is going to grow really well. It's already got pretty plentiful, plenty of leaves. Let me get this out of the way. Sorry, it's messy. I'm still in the middle of moving. And then these, I forgot to mention, billietiae, they tend to put out these spots. These are extra floral nectaries. A lot of philodendrons do put it out. If this bothers you, do not get this plant, but I personally find it interesting. They're like little defects on paintings. And what they do is that they actually attract ants to come feed on the sugar nectars, because these spots, they excrete sugar nectars. How cool is that? And then the ants will in return protect these plants away from other pests. So ants in your plants could mean 2 things. One would be that it's deterring pests because the ants are getting sugars from here. Another reason an ant would be in your plant is because they have a symbiotic relationship with mealybug and or scale. And then the ants will bring those pests to your plants, and then they will eat their poop, because their poop will be the ones that are providing sugary excrements for the ants. And remember this fact because it will make you the most interesting person in any party setting. And now this, look at this. Ta-da! These are the babies. So I need to be very careful. You see how water is sitting on the top of the leaves because I just watered it. I literally need to like, I need to shake it off, because the leaves, if water is sitting on the leaves, that's not a good thing for them. It can invite a lot of fungal and bacterial, I don't know, pathogens, spores to sit on the leaves. So yeah, I've been busy doing that. I've been watering and then blowing the leaves dry. But they're doing well, and look at the 6 packs that's coming out of this. So yeah, this is 3 plants coming out of here. I meant to check on the roots, but I haven't got the chance to do it. Look at how beautiful the variegations are. This is definitely one of my most satisfying propagations, and I'm really glad I did it. Sometimes you just gotta, is that the word, bite the bullet? Or something like that. You just gotta jump in the water without a life vest. That's what I mean. Yeah, I guess thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna end this video now. I hope that you guys are doing well, growing well, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.